Hello, I'm Malcolm Haslett.
I'm Janice Baker. A few weeks ago, we had psychic Robin Sharee on the program, and we had such a reaction, we had to ask her back again. So to tell us a lot more about her psychic abilities and some interesting advice.
She gave a lot, including in the dressing room. And with many traditions for Christmas changing, what events make the child in all of us come out? Find out next on Our Time. Welcome.
Hello, welcome to Our Time.
Great to have you watching us and us watching you, if you only knew we could see. Do you know, Janice, do you remember when you were a child? You were a child in England though, weren't you? You weren't here. Well, here in South Australia, and I'm sure in every other state in the country, there was a place called the Magic Cave.
Yes, but I took my children there.
Oh, of course you would have.
Yes, my boys.
Yes. Well, I remember when I was a kid, there was... it was a photo opportunity, of course, with Father Christmas, but also here in Adelaide we had this animatronic elephant, and I've got this fantastic photograph with me going, "Ah!" and hanging on to my mum in front of the elephant. But you know, those opportunities really haven't been around so much in the last few years. But here in South Australia, and I know in the other states in Australia, some entrepreneurs have taken Santa by the hair and given him a new lease of life.
By the beard?
That too, yes. Or by the red trousers.
Whatever.
Or by the reindeer. And instigated opportunities for kids to share that magic that we had. So it's a great pleasure to welcome Scott Ireland, who is from something happening here in South Australia called Santa's Wonderland. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Dennis.
Scott, this isn't the first year this has happened.
No, last year was our inaugural year for the event, and the event was embraced by Adelaideans in the most positive and wonderful way. We did 10 days and about 35,000 people came through and experienced Santa's Wonderland.
Did you expect that amount of people? Were you surprised by the reaction?
We were pleasantly surprised by the reaction, but we knew Adelaide does have a soft spot, a particular soft spot for Christmas, and with the experience of the Magic Cave, we just felt that the Magic Cave should be ramped up into a much larger, more dynamic experience.
And boy, it was ramped up, but the good thing is, see, in South Australia we have the very famous, now called Credit Union Christmas pageant. But in days gone past, it used to be connected with a department store, and that's where Santa would lob and you could go and experience all this. But it was still in the confines of a department store. But this isn't, is it?
No, this is located at the Adelaide Showgrounds. We have 8,000 square metres of room to play with, which enables us to get in amusement rides and...
An ice floor?
An ice floor, a bit of snowfall on arrival, about 3 theatrical shows throughout the piece, and of course our friend Santa turns up at the end to wish everyone a Merry Christmas.
Well, he turns up at the beginning too, because he arrives at the very beginning.
He does, Malcolm, you're exactly right. He arrives to a fanfare from children who count down to let him in.
Oh,
well, you hear it. I know about this because I saw it. But because he arrives on the roof and you hear Santa with the reindeer arriving, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, fantastic.
And then, but everyone sort of stands behind this big red velvet curtain that then the whole park, if you like, is exposed. Now, I guess that's the best to explain it, isn't it? People who've been to a theme park, this is what it really is like. It's like going into an undercover theme park.
Pretty much. It's the creation of a theme park that is entirely themed around Christmas.
So how many people were involved in creating this Wonderland?
So the event owners are a young couple, Russell and Amanda Watkins, who have had this fabulous vision, and they then employ about 120 people on the floor at any given point in time, from wandering Christmas talent to the theatrical shows to the elves that look after the jumpy castles.
How long does it take for you to actually set this up?
It is a process.
I like the smile on his face there.
So you finish and then start all over again?
In terms of planning for the following year, absolutely. So those who attended last year are in for a few surprises. There's some new elements this year that will come into play, which will be fantastic. We're back on board with our friends at the Credit Union Christmas pageant, and we'll have 10 of their floats that you can get up close and personal and have your photo taken with.
Wow.
And they look great, don't they? Because you see them floating down the street, but you don't. I mean, it is a floating past. Visual treat, but when they're there and you can actually sort of interact with it, it's
I used
fantastic.
to take my boys actually before the parade started. That's where we would start and walk around the floats before.
Oh, okay. Didn't know you could do that. You must have connections.
No.
Scott, so basically people pay a fee up front to come in to see whatever's inside. But if you were buying food, it's just like any sort of theme park, you would buy food.
Correct.
Or if you were playing certain games, you'd probably pay to
That's
a prize.
entirely correct. So the ticket price commences from around $26.50 plus booking fee per person, and that enables you to 3 hours of 3 theatrical shows, unlimited ice skating, unlimited tobogganing, unlimited rides, as well as a fabulous Christmas activity trail where the children get to colour in a bauble, write a letter to Santa, meet Mrs. Christmas.
Is she back?
She's back.
She's lovely.
She
was very cute.
She is lovely.
Yes. She's exactly what you expect her to be.
And she was just such a hit last year with the kids and mum and dad's photos. You can also have a more formal photo taken if you wish with Santa at additional cost, but the majority of that 3 hours can easily be spent within this space for true family memory creation.
It's true, you know, that's a very valid point. Creating family memories these days are a lot harder than they used to be, I think. Because we've just got, there's technology fighting us everywhere, and just spending some time with your kids and understanding that these are the things that you remember at our age, like me remembering the elephant and screaming.
Sure.
And looking back on those things, they're great photos to get out at the 21st birthdays and just the whole memory of a family, aren't they?
Absolutely, Malcolm. And the other thing that we found last year, particularly with the Credit Union Christmas pageant floats, were grandparents standing and talking about some of the floats that they saw as children that their children were now, or their grandchildren were now experiencing within the event.
Do you think it's important to have those memories, particularly around Christmas?
I'm a Christmas tragic. I'm an absolute Christmas tragic. So for me, Christmas is very much about that whole family coming together. Yes, you fight. Yes, there are tantrums, all of that. But it should be a shared experience that just creates those wonderful memories, whether it's in a phone these days or whether it's actually being able to experience a ride with your kids. We've got some of the most amazing little ride-on reindeers, so you can come and train the reindeers for us, which are pedal driven, and there's a couple there for adults as well, so you're more than welcome to pop along.
And obviously get photos or moving vision of that happening with mum or dad or grandpa on the reindeer.
Absolutely, and they'll come out in the new year at the showings.
Oh, fantastic.
So how long does it run?
So we run from December. Our opening night is December the 8th this year, and we'll be running right through to December 24. And you can easily find out a lot more information about each of the zones within the event by going to www.santaswonderland.com.au. And it's just a fabulous 3 hours that you can spend with your family.
Well, we've talked about that, but now let's talk about you. How on earth did you get into this sort of promotional, organising events business?
About 20 years ago, I fell into an opportunity to produce an event for a travel company I was working for at the time here in South Australia, which was Kangaroo Island Sea Link, and they needed to write a top-end program to reward customers for an amazing job that they'd done throughout the year. And a gentleman came to me and said, you need to write something that money can't buy. And I went, oh, well, there's a bit of a challenge. So I went berserk and wrote a program for Kangaroo Island, which incorporated camels and Arab sheikhs in the Little Sahara Desert and famous entertainers and all of that sort of malarkey, half expecting it never to be purchased. And it was incredible because he rang me back about 3 days later and said, yep, tell us how much, we're in.
Wow.
So that was my first foray into event management.
Like, oh gosh, we've got to do it now. Ooh, where do I begin?
Now I've actually got to produce what we said we could, yeah.
But the thing is, people don't always realise that these things don't just happen by accident. Most of them have got virtually a year in the planning, if not more.
Absolutely. So the most recent example I can give you is we had the pleasure of working with the Adelaide Convention Centre to relaunch their new East building. So it was an amazing experience where I got to work with in excess of 120 performers on one show. I got to put fire on the River Torrens in Adelaide, which hadn't been done, so a gas flame effect, with the company who produced the Olympic cauldrons, who were also South Australian based but hadn't done a gig at home. So we brought together some fabulous South Australian companies to showcase a beautiful new South Australian building.
Fantastic.
Well done. Congratulations. It's good to hear that.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because everybody has a story as to how they got from here to there sort of thing. But we don't always hear the stories of the people behind the scenes. You only ever really see the people out front, you know. But to know that people like you exist and how that works is really quite interesting. Yeah,
it's a fabulous experience to take someone's initial vision or concept and then be able to reproduce it live on a stage or reproduce it live in a venue or at an opening ceremony or something of that nature.
Fantastic. Well, look, good luck with Santa's Wonderland this year. It's on between the 8th to the 24th.
Santa will be busier.
He will. He'll have to get a good sleep. Now, we'll be returning in just a moment with Robin Sharee. What's she going to suggest for you? Ooh. What's she going to tell you? We'll see you in a tick. Welcome back to our time.
Yes.
You know, a short time ago we had a really interesting lady on the show whose name is Robin, who is a clairvoyant.
Yes.
And Robin, it was great talking to...
Is that the same as psychic? Psychic, clairvoyant?
Sorry.
I'm both.
Yeah. Both.
She's both.
Yeah.
She's everything.
Yes.
And in fact, we were just talking about that. You are a bit of everything, but some skills you don't use. But can we go back to how you developed this, how you found that you had these abilities?
Well, I was certainly born this way, but it's sort of like if you're blind, colorblind, you know, you don't know there's red or green. So in my last year of university, which I was going to be a preschool teacher, I had to take one last class. I took a parapsychology course. And in that course in San Francisco at that time, they had all the top people who do what I do in all different modems from all around the world. So we had Kevin Ryerson from Ireland. And each week they would get in front for 12 weeks and they would show us what they do. And I was at the front of the class in the beginning. But when Kevin Ryerson allowed this man to come through him and he completely changed physically and started doing prophecy, I ran to the back of the class. So the last class we had a local woman who was a #1 psychic in San Francisco. And at the end of her teaching, she came back to me and she said, oh, you're going to be a really amazing psychic. And I said, nah, I'm going to be a preschool teacher. And she said, oh, I'm doing a free course for 12 weeks, free for you. Yeah. Please come to my class. And well, when I was a child, I'd take a free bus ticket across the street. So I took her course, and every week she would say, okay, everybody put their keys, you know, in a bowl, and everybody grab one, and she'd say, all right, go around the circle, and what do you get from the keys? And I'd say, well, I get this from the keys, and I was extremely accurate. Then they'd say, okay, stand against that white wall, somebody, and then what do you see? And I'd see all these colors bursting out of them, you know, and so they'd say, okay, well, here are cards, you know, we'll teach you the format of how to do cards. And so I was like, very accurate at cards. So basically anything any modem of divining I could do, just boom, like that. And I went to the head of the class and I was like, oh, gee, that explains a lot. Mm-hmm.
We should make it clear that you're not a fortune teller as such, or you don't choose to be.
I am not a gypsy, no.
Not a gypsy, and you're also not a prophet as such.
No, I don't, no. But I would like to say that people like me have always been close to royalty or people in power, because we are great at figuring out what will work and what won't work and how to win.
Well, talking about the world religions, and most of the world religions have a basis where somebody prophesied that you know, this was going to happen or that was going to happen.
Nostradamus, who was dyslexic, and that's why no one can actually read his trines.
I wasn't going down that path, but that's most interesting. But so throughout human history, it's been recognised by human beings that people have these abilities.
Yes.
And many of them are sort of very intertwined with the world religions.
Yes, and many of the different people in those faiths who did divine paid dearly for it. As I said, we have no history of the Druids because, you know, when the Celts and were fighting, you know, the Romans killed every single Druid, so we have nothing of their religion. Well, there's a bunch of stones, and we don't know what they mean.
It's interesting that, isn't it? That's fascinating. But when you stand there, I must admit, have you been to
Stonehenge.
Stonehenge, thank you.
Yes,
thank you.
yes.
Did you read my mind then? What's going on here? I had the strangest feeling standing there. I could see things that I'd never, you know, and I don't profess to be psychic or anything, but I definitely had feelings coming through that were really unusual.
Yes.
I actually didn't want to leave, to be honest.
You were connecting with your spirituality, you were connecting to the universe, you were connecting to...
Whatever it was definitely a different feeling.
And it's very energizing.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I never expected that. Have you been there?
I have been, but it was many, many years ago.
You're
so
a child.
No, I wasn't a child, but
Many years ago you were.
young. Yes. Thanks, Mel.
That's right.
So for me, the key in all this, when I found out that I had all these different ways of divining, was, well, how will I use it? How will I use it in a business sense? So when I started doing this, I started only with women. I had only women for clients in America because I thought, hey, women deserve a little bit of a, leg up. But when I came here, and because my name is ROBIN, I had all these men calling me for appointments because they thought I was man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I started reading for men, I was like, oh, for goodness sakes, why didn't I do this easier? Why didn't I do this sooner?
Really?
Yes, because men are very beautiful in the sense that they are very self-focused. So if I'm looking at you and I've got your entire lifetime and before you ever came here and everybody around you, the more self-focused you are, the better I am to look at you and move you forward and be able to get the information that you need to move forward. A woman will come in, and I'm a woman myself, but oh, for God's sakes, they'll want to know everyone from, their mother or their children or their husband or their girlfriend, and then they'll even bring photos of their animals. It is very frustrating. It's like, I'm sorry, you are here to see me, and this reading is for you, and I'm here to advocate for you. I need you to help me. And every time you go, what about this? What about this? What about this? It just sets me off track. So how do I do what I do? I use your birthday and birth name, and from that I get your numerology and astrology, and from that I look at the spark. Bam, like if you look at a star in the sky, I find you, and then I start tracking you. And then I look at, why did you come here? Because we make agreements before we come here. And if you are far off the path of your agreement, then life is quite full of obstacles. And life keeps trying to take things away and take your things away to make you get back on track.
Right.
Second reason, why don't people get to where they really deserve in this world? They don't get there because they surround themselves with people who don't have their best interests at heart, and they don't want them to get where they're going. So yeah, that's sort of what I do. And people say, well, what do you do? I say, I save people time, money, and pain, to be honest.
Well, you know, it's really interesting you just said that about sort of following a career path that you should follow. I've never really done anything to become anything. It's just been, oh, I'll go there now because somebody's asked me to do that. I've never really...
No, you're completely wrong there, and you are very much underestimating your own gift and your own intuition and your own psychicness. You instinctively know what is the way for you to go. But more importantly, there is a kindness to you of how about we take everybody with us? How about we give everyone a chance? And that's the beauty of creativity. So you're an extremely creative person, but also, when you are just sort of thinking, oh, I'm just sitting here, dreaming away. No, you're not. You're creating. You're manifesting in this world.
But everybody must do this to a degree because they must...
No, most people are not in tune with what their purpose is here.
Really?
Yes. And they get sidetracked because this can be hell or it can be Disneyland. So they may have said, I'm going to come here and I'm going to, be brilliant. And it's like, oh, gosh, look, there's material things and there's all kinds of fun things to do, and I don't have to do what I came here to do. I'm having too much fun.
That's a really interesting way of looking at it. Because so much of upbringing, as we were talking in the first time we talked to you about having a Catholic upbringing and the confusion between that and, you know, if you were seeing what you were seeing and knowing what you were knowing, must have been of the devil. And
in one
so on.
sentence, the only person we ever heard about in America that did anything like me was Jean Dixon, and she read from a crystal ball, for God's sakes, and she predicted that our Catholic president would get shot in the head in Texas. How's that going to go over?
That's true.
You know,
Well,
wasn't able to prevent it,
No.
but
No.
it did call the White House. No one listened.
No one listened.
That's interesting, that, isn't it? Yes. But we were just saying before about you're not in a situation of predicting things like the tectonic plates going bang and the ring of fire.
Oh, well, I might be able to do that.
But you have. But you've had
telling-
advised people not to go
Yeah.
to certain places because you've seen
Yes.
something. And one of the stories that we were talking about was that one of the people you were talking with decided to go, and
Yeah.
exactly what you predicted occurred.
Well, a lady came to me. She had a beautiful plan to travel around the world. And I said, oh, okay. This was like a sidetrack. Where are you going? She said, I'm going here, here, here. I said, well, that's fine everywhere but Japan. And she's like, why Japan? Well, the information I got was just don't go. And I said, all I know is I see you sitting in a tent and you've got like cases of water and the ATM card doesn't work. I'm just telling you, don't go. So she went, of course, because, hey, not a dolphin. Don't have to swim to Mexico every year. We have free choice. Take what I say, keep, you know, grab the ball and run with it or not. It's perfectly fine. But big earthquake, got stuck in a tent, lots of water, no ATM card. Ruined the whole rest of her holiday.
Wow. Yeah.
And how do you see this? How does this message come
If you're
to you?
going to do what I do and actually do it very well, you have to trust that whatever you get, it's not for me, it's for you. So it may not make any sense to me whatsoever, whatever might come in. For the longest time, I didn't do mediumship, which is talking to people who have crossed on the other side. And I didn't do it because I felt in this lifetime, we're here to accomplish what we're supposed to accomplish here. We don't have to worry about what's on the other side. Everybody's fine on the other side. But then I had a businessman, a very prominent, wealthy businessman in my office one day, and this little old lady kept floating in from behind him with a dog, an Alsatian, and she was obviously in England. I'm like, oh God, help me, no, you know, because I'd always said, you know what, if there was such a thing as people talking from the other side, my grandma's not going to tell me she's got the dog. I was a bit, you know.
No.
And she was telling him it was his grandma, and she was telling him she had the dog. And I was like, oh, for goodness sakes, I just have to stop this and tell you there's this lady, and this is her name, and this is the guard, this is the name of the dog. And he just burst out crying like a child. And he was so incredibly happy because he intensely loved his grandmother and dog. And it meant so much to him.
That
They're
they
like,
were together.
okay, enough of that, let's get back to business.
Wow. I've got goosebumps. I have.
So
Amazing story.
do you feel?
But then there's also, excuse me, really sad things. Like I had a woman come to my office. I say, bring photos, you know, bring people's birthdays. And so she has these beautiful photos, and I'm going through the photos and going, not going to talk about them yet. And in this one, I said, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. And she said, what are you talking about? I said, her. And she goes, that's my sister, and she's alive. And I said, oh, okay. Well, please save that. You know, well, 2 days later, I get a phone call because they can't find her sister. And then I actually have to find her sister, and it's just extremely sad. But so my work is all different kinds of work. I do business readings, I do personal readings, you know.
Extraordinary.
I'm curious because I know people would be thinking, okay, but where does this come from, do you feel, for you? What is the other side? And when you're talking about the other side or the extension of life at another time, another zone, whatever, where is it?
Let's talk really quickly about what we are and where we come from. We don't come from here, okay? So there's a spark within our heart. We have a spiritual heart, we have a spiritual brain, and we have a soul. And we are eternal, and we don't die. So, yeah, we always continue. We always continue. So what I do is I connect through your birthday, through your astrology, numerology, through the spark of where you come from to your life and where you've come from and why you're here. And then from there, I read whatever you need. So that's how I find you. So we are a part of a much better and bigger universe. We are actually never alone. It's just this body and this brain up here is the Neanderthal body and brain. It has two things, fight or flight. That's all this body and brain knows, you know? And so in here is where we really should be thinking from, and this needs to connect to this. The Catholics do have one brilliant thing, devil on one shoulder, angel on the other, you know, and the angel's always going, go this way, the devil's going, no, no, go that way. Well, this is the devil, and this is where the angel is, and it's whispered in your ear, that's not the way to go that way. Yeah. So we have a higher purpose, we all belong, we all get to go there. Some people, different faiths, different religions, different that go, perhaps.
Well, it's really part of the universe, isn't it? And the more that
we're a spark.
the more that we're understanding, the more it is. Look, thank you so much for spending this time. It's been lovely seeing you.
And thank
you.
you.
Just hang around for a moment so we can say goodbye to everybody.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in a tick. So much to learn in so little time.
Fantastic, very interesting.
Robin, thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I really do appreciate it.
It's been lovely to spend these segments with you, to chat, and hopefully in the future we can have you back if the show continues.
Yes.
We'd love to do that.
And if you'd like to be in touch with Robin, then you can actually find her details through us.
Yes. So until next time on Our Time.
Take care of yourself.
And keep yourself nice till then. Thanks, Robin. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.